Harbour Grace has always had a great impact on my life. I wasn't fortunate to grow up there. I did grow up in St. John's, but my summers and all of my weekends, right up until I was about maybe 17, was spent out in Harbour Grace. And yes, indeed, it is God's territory. So to see that the Immaculate Conception Cathedral was put up for sale and that the services had ended, I took a vacation out there 3 years ago, and I wanted to make sure that I took some photos on the outside of the church. Unfortunately, I couldn't get on the inside, as a preservation for this church. So you'll find at the end of this video the pictures that I did take. So it is with great honor that I give you the history of the Immaculate Conception Cathedral, Roman Catholic Church. So let's begin. The coming together to celebrate and share the Word of God was forbidden on the island of Newfoundland during Britain's reign. In 1755, a Catholic Mass was celebrated in Harbour Grace, and the house was burned. An official, Charles D. Garland, to Britain's reign, burned the house to the ground while searching to arrest the priests that resided the Mass. Former Father McNamara escaped to St. Pierre. It would not be the last house burned, with the possessions and livelihood taken away, a fine to pay, and even excommunication right off the island of Newfoundland. So going back in time as well, in the 18th century, England began to allow services to finally be held. And in 1786, Bishop James O'Donnell, and there are some variations to the spelling of the last name, you'll see the variations there. Bishop James O'Donnell established a mission in Harbour Grace, with the first of many masses conducted in private homes. Father Patrick Phelan, under the headship of Father O'Donnell, traveled the East Coast delivering Mass before ending up in Harbour Grace around 1794. Father Patrick Phelan's passing led to his remains being buried at the Bennett's Lane graveyard in Harbour Grace. Then came Reverend Ambrose Fitzpatrick from 1880 to 1806. Afterwards was Reverend Thomas Anthony Ewer, who took over the mission. It was then the first church was built in Harbour Grace with a 100-foot wooden steeple. By 1830, this mission had finally turned into a parish. A Bishop Michal Anthony Fleming then went and recruited missionaries from Ireland for Newfoundland. In 1833, he visited Galway Presentation Convent to recruit nuns for teaching. 4 nuns came in September 21st, 1833, and the first school opened a month after their arrival. This school was established in St. John's. Bishop Michal Anthony Fleming, his death being on July 14th, 1850. After Reverend Thomas Anthony Ewer's passing, Reverend Charles Dalton, an Irish missionary, took over as parish priest. Plans were made to build a new church, and the 100-foot wooden steeple was torn down. The first steps in motion for the cathedral began in 1844. The first bishop of Harbour Grace, a Bishop John Thomas Mullock, laid the first cornerstone in 1852. Convents were opened in Harbour Grace in 1851, in Carbonear in 1852, and in Harbour, Maine in 1853. When the cathedral was built, many years later, the diocese was now under the guiding of Bishop John Dalton, which was Reverend Charles Dalton's nephew. With the passing of Bishop John Dalton's death in 1869, now we have Bishop Enrico Henry Fargurini, who took over the diocese. This bishop desired that the cathedral resembled St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. The stone for the cathedral came from Kelly's Island, just off of Bell Island. The timber came from the USA, the brick from Hamburg, Germany, and then came the granite from Scotland and the marble from Italy. There was a decision made that such a magnificent cathedral should face the harbour instead of Harvey Street. And upon that decision, a school and a bell tower had to be removed. We have a Bishop Enrico Henry Carafagrini was the second bishop of Harbour Grace. In 1874, the bishop fell out with the BIS, the Benevolent Irish Society, demanding loyalty from the society. In 1875, Rome declared the secret society of the BIS as a civil society outside of the jurisdiction of the bishop. The bishop also disputed with the Presentation Sisters in Harbour Grace over their finances, and this dispute was pertaining to that now they were financially independent due to a house and 25 acres of farmland from the first bishop, Charles Dalton, who purchased this land and house from Dr. William Sterling. We have Bishop Enrico Henry Carafagrini, who had tried to remove the Presentation Sisters due to their influence decision power with the Irish in his congregation. We then have Bishop Enrico Henry Carafagrini, who left Harbour Grace and became Bishop of Gallipoli, Italy. Now came Bishop Ronald MacDonald and finished the work of the previous bishop. The cathedral was completed around 1884. A new convent was built on the same property for £859, which is equivalent to $1,542 Canadian. The convent closed in 1971 and was dismantled in 1974. The cathedral at that time was valued at $350,000. Unfortunately, the church was burned down on September the 2nd, 1889. And with no insurance, the diocese had to start all over again. Construction began again toward a new church, Immaculate Conception Cathedral, and recycled material would have to be used in the construction of this third church. The consecration for this church was on November the 8th, 1899. 3 years later, the Gothic revival-styled cathedral was built in 1892. Bishop John March came after in 1906, and then came Bishop J. M. O'Neill in 1940. In 1953, the church co-partnered with Grand Falls. This then formed the Harbour Grace Grand Falls Diocese. The bishop, in 1956, was transferred to Grand Falls. Restoration of the Immaculate Conception Cathedral began in 1987, but had to close its doors in 2014. Many parishioners came in and out of its doors for well over 100 years, 112 years to be exact. In April 1990, the Heritage Foundation of Newfoundland and Labrador designated the cathedral as a registered heritage structure. Bishop Anthony Daniels, on Sunday, November the 4th, 2018, presided with the last service. In 2018, Craig Flynn and Brenda O'Reilly purchased the cathedral with the intentions to restore the building as a hotel, conference hall, and brewery. The Roman Catholic Diocese of Grand Falls estimates that it will take $9 million on the restoration tag for the Immaculate Conception Cathedral Roman Catholic Church.